And here we are, people. Episode 3, the Pro Aging Podcast. I'm looking at this gorgeous smile right here on video. I have the famous Dr. Michael Appa right here talking to me. We are not in studio together, but like our usual interactions, they're on some screen at a distance. So most of my audience already follows him. But for most of you that don't know who he is, you better get to know him because he literally makes people smile for a living. He is a world-renowned aesthetic, cosmetic dentist, and he's really a pioneer in the way not only that we think about teeth, but obviously the way we look at them. And having such an international clientele has really kind of changed the game for all of us in the way we see cosmetic dentistry. He also has a luxury oral care line called Appa Beauty. And the most important reason why I want him on my podcast is that, similar to myself, but even more so, this is a guy that is invested in teeth. He is emotionally invested, physically invested. If you follow him online or if you've been a patient of his, and we've shared so many patients, you will know he is a all-in type of guy. And that is part of the whole pro-aging lifestyle. And what I want to learn some tricks from him myself. It always makes me feel bad I'm not exercising enough or not working hard enough. So I'm hoping that he could help all of us kind of be the better version of ourselves. So Michael, welcome to the Pro-Aging Podcast.
Amazing to be here. Thank you for having me.
I know it's not easy for you to sit still for too long. And I know that with offices in New York, Dubai, and Los Angeles, give me just a little short recap on how's it going bringing that all back again? Are you running around like you used to? Are you focusing in one place? Give me a little rundown of current status.
Well, it is like it used to be, but it was, March and April were tough trying to figure what we were going to do out. We were on the phone a lot. Yeah. March, April, May, the news, our colleagues, our friends, all trying to figure out a way forward. Dubai was the hardest for me to kind of figure out because I was at the mercy of the airlines, and they just weren't flying from the United States to Dubai. We couldn't go in. They started letting people in August, and we started going. They changed their planes that they travel there from the A380s to the 777s. The 777s happen to have those amazing dream suites on them, which are full rooms, which make it feel much safer to go. But I'll be honest with you, I have been traveling a lot, but in order to travel with my teams and go and deliver the same kind of product that we've been delivering, you have to bring a lot of people, and that is not feel good. I don't feel great about getting on commercial flights, so we were, honestly spending a lot of money to be able to travel to make everyone safe, but to keep everything moving forward during this crazy time that we're in right now.
Do you think, we all know there's going to be a new normal. Things aren't going to go back to the same way. Yeah. Has this changed your thought processes in terms of your model of growth, in terms of, you found a way prior to COVID to be in many places at once. Has this kind of, I know for myself, you rethink the game plan a little bit?
I'm sure as you've seen as well, right?
Yeah.
It's shocking how much demand there is for cosmetic procedures during this time. Yeah. I can remember sitting on the phone with you saying to you, who is ever going to want to do their teeth? But people do, and the world does go on, and I'm feeling better about getting a vaccine and it rolling out into summer and things like that. But the short answer is no. I'm actually doubling down. I'm seeing opportunity where some may see, and I always have, that's just been my way. I'm seeing opportunity where some may scale back. Now, in every decision I've made from when I was in my 20s till this day, if I asked financial advisors that I surround myself with, and honestly a lot of colleagues, most people have told me, do not do what you're about to do because it's a terrible decision. I.e., starting in Dubai in 2008, when the financial crisis of the world was happening and 80% of the world's cranes were in Dubai at a complete standstill. I mean, when I went to Dubai for the first time, the lights were out. And I saw opportunity in that if you put your feet on the ground in a time like that, in a place like that, people know that you really are going to be there. And a lot of Dubai's success and failures, people thought, oh, let's go to Dubai. It's paved in gold. We'll open something, somebody else will run it, and we'll make a fortune. And like what we do, it's very personalized. I do all my work myself, so when I'm seeing patients in a place like that, I know that this is a place where I want to be. I'm going to be here for the long term, and I've been there for 12 years, so going on 13. So I feel that opportunity in New York right now. A lot of people are saying New York's dead, everybody's moving, taxes, it's not the same, it's never going to come back the same way that it used to. But you know what? Real estate's going to be cheaper, and it's a time to really think about how a big practice like this one in New York functions out of a small space. And for me, this has given me time to kind of really examine where the holes are in my practice. And one of the holes that I see is not the quality of work, it's being a business manager and an owner and really looking after HR, your employees, how people are getting bonuses and things like that in times. It's all just been, they're like my family. So you ask for a bonus, fine. You deserve it. You're great.
You see them more than your family.
Right. Yeah. So I'm trying to get to a place where, and in today's world, you have PR, guys like us, we want publicists that are just devoted to us because we feel like we have a special story to tell, and we don't want to be at a PR agency or, content. How are we showing what we're doing in an interesting way that people can digest it? And it's not goofy or, we're sophisticated guys, so we want to put our best foot forward. So that really needs its own separate. So I'm putting all those pieces together right now and saying, like, maybe now is the time where I have a real flagship in New York, right? Where I'm not just a dental office and I'm running a company as well as doing what I'm doing, but I'm putting the right managers in place to really look after the business part where I can focus more just on the dentistry part. So that's where my mindset is.
I could not agree more with the whole double down part. It's a frustrating process. People think guys like us, it's like, oh, you just make a decision 100%, then it's done. Yeah. It takes a lot of thought process because we are managing medicine, We are healthcare providers, so it does, it's tough to be the business person and the healthcare provider at the same time. And I think times like this are our challenges, are our tests to make us find that balance. This is one of the questions I was going to bring up with you, because you want to grow, you want to expand, but the reason, what got you here is your personal investment in each patient.
Yeah.
And
but I can take that one step further, because for us, a lot of people want to look at us and say, or doctors in general, especially in the cosmetic arena, right? They want to say like, oh, he has a slick campaign. And listen, it goes without saying that I eat, breathe, live cosmetic dentistry. Yeah. I obsess when I go home at night. You want to know what I'm doing, which is one of the questions we'll get to. I'm looking at the work that I did that day. Yeah. I'm examining it. After 18 years of doing it, that's what I'm doing. Yeah. And when something goes right that I really enjoy, I'm showing my wife and showing my kids. And to be honest, like, they may like it, they may not, but I love it. For me, that's the biggest joy. Like, I have pictures of so-and-so's case that I thought was so amazing. So let's put that aside and that's a given. Yeah. But what's interesting in today's world is doctors in healthcare providers should and can give a better experience than we're currently giving. And in order to do that, you have to have a great team in order to offer that experience.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about foot rubs and scented candles and warm pillows. I'm talking about like the type of service that you would get if you went to a really amazing hotel, okay, where they know your name before you get there. There is no front desk. You have a private place where you're, checking, or you don't check in. As you travel, as you live, as you grow, you start to experience these things in life, and you say, well, why can't this be done in my field? Like, why do I have to conform to being a healthcare provider, and therefore that means that I have clipboards and, insurance forms? It's like we can offer a better experience if it's well thought out.
You want people who are invested, and that's all about team building.
Yeah.
And to me, you're only as good as a provider as the team you build. And in challenging times like this, you find out who's invested and you find out who is not. And there's always going to be some turnover. There's always going to be some challenges and frustrations with things like staff and the way an office functions. But I think really it's about who you surround yourself with. And, I feel like this personally as well. Through COVID, being sick, all these different things, ultimately, do I need so many friends in this world? Do I need so many contacts? You learn to know who's of the best value in your life and who's invested in you. And I think it's the same way professionally. I think how and I know you're like this too, how you function professionally is how you function personally. They're not two separate entities, home life and work life. For guys like us, this is it's just life.
It's life. Yeah, I was going to say it's life.
It's just life. Let's go on to a question that I always have for you, because I know about 15 or 20% of my patients are international. Yeah. Unfortunately, most of them are gone now. I'm starting to see a few of them trickle back in, but you have the advantage of getting to visit these different places. Yeah. And I know one of the issues I deal with is, there's a Miami aesthetic, there's an LA aesthetic, there's a European aesthetic, and sometimes I find it difficult, challenging to give my own aesthetic when people are living in different places. Yeah. How do you bring your aesthetic to maybe how people see the smile differently around the world?
It's a great question, and it's one that is asked frequently. And here's what I would say is, I think that doctors draw a certain type of patients to them, which is why I never feel like that there's competition, right? So people, for instance, I talked about, everyone always tells me things are bad ideas. Don't open in LA. There's a cosmetic dentist on every block. Why would you open in LA? And the answer is because I'm drawing patients that believe in my, we're going to talk about it in a little bit, lifestyle, aesthetic, all those things. I have a certain aesthetic, as do you, as do some of our other colleagues who we're close to and we know of. So, of course, there's a difference, right? But I think in general, on a larger scale, the types of people that come visit me are coming to visit me for my aesthetic, and they're already my type of patient. You know what I'm saying? That's why it's
hope.
Yeah, it's tough to buy a practice or to take someone else's patients. Like, I had a tough time in this practice when I first started transitioning from associate to partner to employee to owner, because I was having to treat Larry's patients who came to him for his aesthetic, and then I'm coming in trying to explain my aesthetic, and it's like it doesn't work. And he's much better at treating his patients, and I'm much better at treating my patients. So where I go to LA and Dubai and New York and even Miami, we get a lot of patients from those places in New York anyway. But I would say that most of them are coming for what you offer, as long as you're putting out what you offer, and that is part of the whole Instagram, whatever trend that you're trying to show.
Yeah. I assume you say no to some patients about what they want.
Of course.
Yeah.
And that is a scary, tough thing that you get much better at as you get older. So I'm 43 now, and I started feeling comfortable in my own skin at 40. And I was 35, I would never say no. I wanted to make everyone happy, and I thought that I could. And the truth is that you can't. And trying to is much more damaging than being able to say no in every facet. So It's a skill, and part of it is, growing up a bit. But yeah, it's the right thing to do when you don't feel that you can accomplish.
I think no matter what profession you're in, early stages of career are filled with trying to make people happy.
Yeah.
And it's an endearing quality, but that doesn't mean it's always in the best interest, particularly when you're a healthcare provider, of the patient.
Right.
And I think that's a balance that you and I understand. I'm 51, you're 40s, but it really takes a good 15 years of practice to find that balance. And if you don't, you'll spend a lot of time wondering why you're not very successful. Because I think it's that point when you're confident in your skills that it allows you to excel.
Yeah.
And I do have other peers of mine as well, and they don't get that mojo. They'll just do things, they'll yes things. They don't realize that actually saying no, that means there's other things that they can do. At least particularly in dermatology. If you say no to lip filler, there's laser resurfacing, there's tumescent liposuction, all these different things.
Yeah.
So I think that is like one of the biggest, most important things in terms of building a practice. And I'm sure you get asked all these practice building techniques all that time, but there's some things you can't teach, right?
There's some things you can't teach, and one thing I would add to that is it makes you happier throughout the day. Like when you're doing something that you don't think is right, you don't do it with the same confidence and mojo that you're just talking about, right? When you're doing things that you feel good about, that the patient is receiving well, and you're treating patients that really appreciate what you're doing for them, it's a totally different atmosphere for the rest of your patients.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Do you see, I know this is one of the questions that was asked on Instagram when we put up our question box. I know in dermatology, there are a lot of trends that people look for. Lip flip, Botox, threads in the nose, things that I just don't feel comfortable doing because my experience has shown that it's not in the patient's best interest. Are there fads or trends in cosmetic dentistry that you see come up like this?
Yeah, I mean, listen, first of all, if there's so with cosmetic dentistry, it's supposed to work or last for 15 to 20 years, right? Yeah. So you want to be careful with a fad aesthetic trend, because God forbid it goes out in 5 years and you have the 2000 version of 2015, what you're supposed to look like, it's not going to be good. But I think there are not some, I'm equating what you're saying to more companies pushing products on doctors, right? And then doctors that don't necessarily make a living practicing, but they make a living lecturing for these companies, are then going out and talking about these products that then doctors are going in and using on their patients. And I use a lot of materials and techniques. In fact, the way that we make our ceramic is a lost art. They don't teach it anymore. Everybody's doing it the faster, easier, digital way. We're still doing it with a paintbrush and powder in an oven. Which I think looks 100 times better and more realistic. And people ask all the time, why do your teeth look different than other people's? And that's the reason, I think. I mean, it's one of the reasons for sure.
Is the oven in the office?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We have 5 of them in the office.
Can you make pizza, too?
No.
Little single serving pizza and some
but you have to because you never know when it's not a normal looking oven, so when you're walking by you get these kind of waves of heat and you got to be careful not to.
I've never seen this oven on Instagram.
I'll start putting it on. Yeah. So I'm I don't want to say like I'm in the Stone Ages, because obviously there are materials that have been around long enough that we've tested and trialed, and we're at the cutting edge of every piece of technology. Companies send it to us, we try it, and we either like it or we don't, and we move forward with it. But I'm really against fads, because they are, for what we're doing, it's not. I don't think it's right.
New is not always better.
No.
Have you found, though? I mean, you had the advantage before being the business owner of being mentored.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you've seen the technology change dramatically in the time that you've been practicing, no?
Yeah. And so one of the things we did in the lab was we brought in, and here's the interesting thing about growing your business and, what the experience is as you are able to grow your practice. Okay, able to attract team members that really want to be a part of it, that will really do an amazing job. But more importantly, you're attracting real talent to your team. So what we were able to do is, in building this lab, we have some of the most experienced lab technicians from around the world. And one of the guys that we have he was the basically the director of technology for a massive dental company, where he would go to people's offices and introduce this technology and show them how to use it and then go on to the next. So he works just for us, and he has all that technology in our office. And we have our system, our process, and we've figured out how to integrate things to make our process better. But it's trial and error, and you have to work through it.
What percentage of, like in dermatology, everyone's trying to do cosmetic dentistry, right?
Yeah.
Who's a general dentist. Everyone wants to dabble.
Yeah.
What percentage of practices have their own labs like you do?
Well,
Is this a common thing?
3 years ago, before I had my own lab, or 3 years after I had my own lab?
Now everybody's got a lab.
No. Very small, 1%.
Yeah.
It's very expensive to have these guys full-time working for you. But, I would go one step further and say that we don't have our own lab. We have really, and I'm not just saying this, the best of the best lab technicians, and we have 11 of them.
You feature them. I see them all.
Yeah.
There's it's really incredible. And to go through all this, through COVID and all that stuff, and still try and deliver the care, it's a whirlwind effort. And I totally appreciate it. I have that relationship with my own nurses and technicians and PAs and things like that. And, it's something you value really significantly in times like this, because again, in good times, it's like, oh, everyone thinks that they have a lab, everyone's doing all these things. When the world's coming to an end, you see really who's standing and who's really, you see the efforts, the result of your work of all this time, and you want to figure out ways about how to accelerate that in the current market. Let's go on to talking about your lifestyle, because I want to talk more about this, because again, this is one of the few guys that makes me feel bad I'm not working out or eating well enough. And I'm pretty much one of the poster childs for my own lifestyle. I want to hear about how you've transformed your personal lifestyle to, did you make changes in your lifestyle for work? Was it a personal decision? Or again, is it all wrapped up into one thing?
I think it's a couple different factors. When I was younger than I am now, I drank alcohol. I went out for dinners a lot. I was a New York guy. I would go out and socialize and all those things. I also was working 4 days a week in one office. I wasn't traveling and all those other things. And I think that this started to happen, first of all, when I met my wife, which was about 10 years ago. She is a no-nonsense woman who has run marathons and done triathlons, and she was super inspiring for me to really start to make changes, and not one of those people that ever made me feel bad or guilty about anything I was doing. I just looked at her and said, shit, I want to be doing that.
Inspirational.
Yeah. But it's like anything. You can't just wake up one day and say, okay, I want to be vegan, I want to work out every day, da, da, da. It's like you have to... My lifestyle is about me personally feeling like I'm enjoying everything that I'm doing in my life. I don't want to feel bloated. I don't want to feel like I don't look good. I don't want to feel like my clothes don't fit me. I just didn't want to do any of that stuff. And I don't want to feel tired all the time. I do travel like crazy. And I'm on different time zones. I'm going from Dubai, 9 hours behind, stopping in New York for 2 days, going to LA 3 hours behind, 12-hour time differences, week to week. And I have a job where I look through microscopes for 8 to 10 hours a day, and I have to be laser focused. And
it's a performance issue.
Yeah, it's a performance. I treat myself like a professional athlete. I don't see it any differently.
Exactly. And you know what? When you are younger, You can get away with those things. I'm
Yeah.
51. I'm going to let you know right now, it doesn't get much better.
No.
It makes it harder and harder. And it's a balance that I try and talk about with my patients all the time because, patients are coming to me with body issues,
Yeah.
fat issues, facial sculpting. And, if you're like drinking 4 days a week and bloated and, have an extra 10 you can't lose, well, hello, these are lifestyle issues.
Yeah.
And these are all the things, we talked about in the book. And it's just, you can't wake up one day. It has to become you. And I think you've really done that. Do you, but you know what, from the outside, and, I know you and we talk, but I know even people who look at myself, they think it's just like, it's an easy process, like, as much discipline as it takes in work, it takes in your home life too. I mean, listen, by the way, if you haven't noticed, I'm day 2 of my 5-day prolong fast. So if I seem a little cranky, okay,
Yeah.
I'm still a little bit of a feast or famine person.
Yeah. No, but I think the best, for people listening to this, the best way to do anything is small wins. So I look at my day as a succession of small wins. My first decision is what time do I get up in the morning? Like how focused. If I'm going to see patients at 8:30 in the morning, I can't get up at 7, right? Like I want to be. My body has to be awake and alert. So in order for that to happen, I need to go to the gym. So did I wake up? Did I get that part done, win or loss? And then, that just goes into the day. And even with going to sleep, you look back at, I'm unfortunately in bed by 9:30 at night. And I'm asleep by 10, like clockwork. And I need to be. I can't stay up till midnight because I got into a book or a show or whatever it may be. That's just part of, and that goes into your family. Like they have to understand that as well. You kind of feel like a downer sometimes, and there are those drawbacks. But at the same time, that's what you're doing it for. You're doing it for your family. You're doing it for yourself. You're trying to make that real impact, but you have to condition yourself like a real professional athlete in thinking about that.
I think there's some point that you reach in life where you realize, there are people, they want a magic pill, they want to have everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They want to burn the candle, they want to be the best at their job.
Yeah.
I think there are sacrifices for the greater good of how you want to perform. I don't know about you. I mean, people are always like, "Oh, but Dr. Frank, do you ever cheat?" I'm far from perfect.
Yeah.
I saw you. Did you have the cookies on the flight back?
Of course I did. They were vegan.
Oh, they were vegan.
They were.
Okay. People aren't slipping you non-vegan stuff?
Never.
No, that's it. Was there any particular, just for our audience out there, because everybody's making dietary choices and exercise choices, I always tell people there is no best way. It's not just vegan or just, a high intensity workouts. You have to find what's right for you. Now it's clear you found your path that's right for you. Were there any things about veganism or about the way you exercise that you found that worked out for you more so than other ways to be the best version of you?
So I used to go to the gym and I used to eat lean, right? And I was always injured. I couldn't play tennis, which is something I really enjoy to do. I couldn't run, which I love the high of running. Like these are important things mentally for me that I needed to be able to do. And I was only 35 when that was happening, and that was scary to me because I could put on weight quickly and then go on some weird starvation diet and drop it fast, but it was damaging my joints. My knees were shot. They were swelling up all the time. So my first step in this direction was with this trainer who I now hired full-time, and she travels with me and really takes care of me. And it has nothing to do with weights or me having a six-pack or any of those things. It was really just, how do I get my body, because, sitting in a chair all day long, hunched over, bent into someone's mouth, or, the same thing with you, like, it's physically taxing, and people don't understand that. That's why I say professional athlete. That was step one. The step two was, and I look at trust me, I look at your Instagram stories when you're in the Hamptons making those meals, and I'm thinking to myself, like, why can I not cook like that for myself? It drives me insane. But I think what is a better thought that goes into my brain is I know myself, I know my life, I know my wife. We're not cooking. And if we do, it's not turning out like that. Maybe at some point in my life I will, take that passion on and want to do it, but right now it's not. So I would substitute ordering from really great restaurants every single night which is disgusting.
No good.
Full of salt, full of oil, you overeat, I would order 3 things and figure out what I wanted and end up eating them at 11 o'clock at night because, and that's just repetitive, So I was looking for someone to start making me food. And I met this woman who was a patient. And she's like, listen, she went to culinary school. She worked at Danielle, and she's honestly, one person that saved my life, it's this girl. She started cooking for me, and it was a lot of vegetables and a little meat. And then I started doing things like reading the China study and really getting into why do I like vegetables more. I always liked the vegetable stuff that she made more than I did the meat stuff that she made. And then I said to her one day, I was like, listen, could I go vegan? After I read the China study, I was like, God, there's all these things, right? So now I'm paranoid. And for me, it is not about whether I think it's cancer causing. I just feel better. And that is the most important thing to me. And I don't think that you should pressure anyone into one way or the other. Like, me being vegan has nothing to do with what people think. Like, now once you don't eat meat for a while, it's hard to look at, a raw steak. However, I love steak. Okay, so I'm not, yeah.
When you want to go back to it, you're coming over for dinner.
I'm coming to your house, yeah, for sure.
It's funny because people say that about me with cooking too, as if, because I'm very feast or famine. Like, I don't eat much during the week. I'm very fastidious. I'll have meat once a week. I'm very much a fruit and vegetable person.
So good.
It's so
good. No, but I'm not saying but they look like they're super well balanced, which I think is important. The way that you're making your meals, you're not just making like a bunch of steak with some potatoes. Like, you're really planning those out, and that is kind of like how she was cooking for me.
Yeah. Well, listen, to me, if I'm going to eat meat, or if I'm going to eat sweets, or if I'm going to eat anything, to me it has to be not in some restaurant that's like hyper flavorizing it.
Right.
I want things organic. I want things cooked the way I want in the healthiest way possible for that category of food. And for me, my mom's side of the family is Italian. I grew up around food, but I never cooked a day in my life until I got a home in the Hamptons, and it became that therapeutic zone for me. It's the only time I'm not thinking about patients, the only time I'm not thinking about things at work. It became a therapeutic process, and I saw how happy it made people around me. My wife, who always likes to cook, my guests, my audience on social media. So like you, it became part of my life and my personality, and it became a good way for me to have that treat instead of feeling like cheating. Like on the weekend, that one Saturday night meal, I'm going to make something that I feel good about, feeds my soul, and feeds those around me. And that brings me to one of the other questions I had for you, which to me is the most important question in every successful person I've ever met, which is, what are those 1 or 2 things that get Dr. Appa in his zone? He's maybe stressed out. He's had a bad day. I know you like to play tennis. I know you like your cars. Is there something like your go-to that makes you kind of feel like everything's okay?
I'll tell you the truth. My kind of, people talk about yoga, working out, those are all wonderful things, right? But I think that my mind is the most at rest when I am doing the first part of someone's mouth, which is the design phase, okay? So it is like art. And the way that my process, my structure, my assistant has been with me for 15 years. She's like an extra set of hands, so there's no communication. I could put headphones on if I wanted to. I mean, that's how little talking goes on during that portion, and it's a 3-hour portion. So that is the point in my day, whether it's night, morning, and I've done it I've done it at midnight. I've done it at 4 o'clock in the morning, noon. It doesn't depending on where I am. But that is the point in my day where everything leaves my mind and I'm able just to really relax and enjoy what. And by the way, the reason it's so enjoyable is because I've worked so hard to be able to do it, and it's like everything coming together at one time. So for me, that's why I keep. There's always that fear that patients, for me personally, and I talk to David about this all the time, but there's always that fear that one day patients just aren't going to call you anymore. You're not important. You're irrelevant, and that is a fear that I have lived with my entire life about everything. So the ability to go in and know that the schedule's full, people still want to come see me, and I get to go in and do that thing that makes me so happy, that's my release. Yeah, tennis, bars, they're all wonderful, but that's the real release.
It's important. You develop significant confidence as we get older, build our brand, build a patient population. But you have to keep that slight amount of insecurity to keep driving you. Because otherwise, again, people always say to me, oh, you're confident, you do this, do that. I said, I'm the most insecure person I know. The reason why I'm so good at what I did is because I feel like I was a fat, ugly child, and I'm still battling that every day.
I was a fat, ugly child.
Yeah. So, you need that kind of respect. It's that fear that the phone will never ring again. And certainly people get that during COVID, How about outside of the office? I know you share limited types of things. I do see, are you still playing tennis? Is there still things that are getting you into that? What takes your mind off of it? Do you go for a drive?
Yeah, really every part,
It's all just a blended life for you.
Tennis is one of the big things for sure. But there's no one, even like great books, great television shows really get me out of my mind. Things that I can really focus on that are not work related. If I get 2 hours when I get home to not think about patients or problems that I have to deal with, or people who got infected with COVID that I have to rearrange schedules for, it would probably be television shows or sports. So whether it be working out or getting into some really good Netflix show. But my life is pretty all in just this.
It sounds like you got the formula for you, which is what matters. Yeah. How about any frustrations that you want to change? I know for me, I always try, this is every year, I try and go into a new year trying to live life with less urgency. Like I'm someone that's always like, I need everything now. I need it all to be fixed now. I need people to move as fast as I do in every aspect of my life. Yeah. And I've had friends tell me, spiritual guidance, things like that, the universe can give you everything you want in life, but you're not going to have it all at the same time. And I just have to learn to have patience. Yeah. Is there anything you wish for that you work on?
Well, I will tell you that, my 20-something-year-old self versus, the greatest part of life is struggling to achieve things. I feel somewhat bad for people that have everything in life because, the most fun part is trying to get it. Like I said, so in this kind of space that we're working in, I have 3 different employees, and I'm doing it all like, your mother's meatball recipe. There is nothing that you can follow step by step. You just kind of stick your hands in the meat, and when the consistency's right, that's how you know you can make the meatballs. And it's all back of the envelope, And I am really, I'm trying to stay calmer, and I'm trying to be more thoughtful of how to manage this so that it becomes what I envision it to be versus another, kind of busy cosmetic dentist's office. And that's my goal.
Well, I think we probably would have had a lot of good time together if we were both in our 20s.
Yeah, 20s.
Not that we don't have fun now, but imagine if we were hanging out, just out of med school, dental school, hitting the town, at least we have the memories. Do we have some rapid fire questions here?
We have some rapid fire.
Okay, we got some rapid fire questions here. Let's see if we have anything good for Dr. Appa.
So how often do you have to change your veneers, and how many times a year do you have to get them cleaned?
How do you clean them, and how often do you have to change them?
Yeah. They should last 15 to 20 years if you're going in, I would say, every 4 months for hygiene. So people that really go in and take care of them get a much longer lifespan.
All right. What do you got?
What makes a case difficult?
Yeah. What is a challenging case to you?
Personality.
For me, it's always, a lot of people come to me, they've had a lot of things done to them. They've had multiple things and they want me to fix it and make it better. It could be very fun to do that, I find, because then I feel confident in my expertise. But
yeah, it's emotionally difficult on the patient that you have to make sure you're capable.
Redos can be very emotionally draining. Yeah. And again, a lot of patients, I find, they could, if you take 10 patients, they may not know, because they not having the work done 10 by 10 different people, they may not know if you're actually better at it, but they feel the confidence and they feel the relationship, which makes them know that you're better for them. I think that's what we get a lot of. What else do you got, Olivia?
Thoughts on black triangles?
What's a black triangle?
Dreaded black triangles. Oh, black triangles are that little, like, when your gum grows down in between the teeth, you have a little triangle of gum, and then it disappears, and you look like you have poppy seeds in between your teeth. As you get older, the gum recedes, and you get these black triangles. They're difficult. They're the hardest thing in dentistry to regenerate. They're impossible to regenerate unless you go in and start doing some restorative dentistry, like veneers or crowns or whatever it is. There's some biologic principles that we can follow, but once that gum is gone, you can't, for instance, graft it back. It's just one of the things that you can't put back.
Wow, I didn't know that.
It's terrible.
Someone asked thoughts on anti-aging cosmetic dentistry, but in this case, we're going to say pro-aging cosmetic dentistry.
Well, listen, I think before you answer the question, so much of what Dr. Appa talked about in my book is about how functional dentistry and aesthetic dentistry, they're not separate entities. They're one and the same. And the things that you do for the health of your teeth, like the health of your skin, are going to make your smile and your skin look better, correct?
Yeah. Not only that, I mean, the other interesting part is cosmetic dermatology, cosmetic dentistry. They're all the same, right? We're looking, and that's why I like, referring patients back and forth with a good team, right? Because looking at the human being, the head that we're talking about, and seeing how it's gone through its process of aging and what we want to do to recapture something of them, right? We're not erasing and wiping out. You're looking at, like, in teeth, for instance, I can see how this is going to sound weird, but I think it's interesting, and I've never talked to you about it, but I think it's something that we should look at some point. I have in my mind, because I look at people's faces all day long, and I'm constantly looking at how their teeth relate to their face. And I would say that there are 15 to 20 basic facial types in the world, and then they age, and then they start to look very different. Yeah. Okay? And I can see how their facial types dictate how their teeth are. I can see how that creates their speech patterns, and I can actually hear people's voices based on how their teeth are. So I can really look at someone's face and almost imagine what their voice sounds like. I mean, that's how crazy it's gotten. Your cosmetic doctor, or a doctor in general treating these types of cases, you need to work with teams like yourself and like David, that are really not just looking at a specific area. You're kind of looking at the process of their life and saying, how can I reset the clock on them? Where were they? So that I can recapture some kind of essence of what they looked like 10 years ago. Not blurry pictures that you can tell nothing from, but like you can see it in the aging process and how to reset those things. And I think that's the real interesting part about what we do. And I don't think they're two separate entities. I think they're
exactly. And it's funny because there are a lot of people, they think white teeth makes a beautiful smile. Big lips make a beautiful smile. Filling in their nasolabial folds makes their mouth attractive. And they don't realize that you have to consider what's causing an aged smile. It's the bone structure is degrading, the soft tissue around the mouth is degrading, the lips are shrinking. You can't just do one. In fact, what to me is bad work is when you just do a lot of one thing. The teeth are too white and you do nothing to everything else. You don't deal with the shape of the tooth. You don't deal with the shape of the lip. You try and give somebody something that they're genetically not meant to have. This is where I think when I look at the kind of a pro-aging picture, it's about attending to the, I don't treat features, I treat faces. That's how I look at it. And I know you're the same way with the smile. And this is such a longer conversation. We can get to a part 2 about this. But it's really about patients need to be educated about this. And they need to be educated by professionals like us. And that's why we're good at what they do. Because there are too many people out there just giving the lip, given the color of the tooth, and not really thinking of the big picture. So for everybody out there, it's important that all these assets of the face are discussed and addressed. And I think you just need to find honest people who are going to do this. And we may not be the providers for everyone. Not everyone can come to see us.
Right, but I think the philosophy can trickle down to a lot. You know, the great thing about Instagram and dentistry is that I look at the amount of people that watched, you know, I did Instagram live lectures every day during quarantine. I look at the amount of people that watch those lectures, and I get messages all the time about how I've changed the way they practice, and you know, and I'm not saying that my way is the right way. It isn't the right way for everyone. I am saying that it, you know, there's a long history of how this dentistry has been done, and it's interesting to look at it this way to give people the things that they're really.
And I think, truthfully, one of the greatest assets and why we practice well together and work well together is because, again, it's not just about building a successful practice. It's about leaving a mark about the way people think about our own personal skill set as a whole. And that's how I look at it, because it gets to a point where a certain amount of success or money or a famous patient here and there, but you want people to think differently. And I know you do it in your sphere, I do it in mine. This is why the Pro-Aging podcast and lifestyle exists. And I think that's a perfect way to thank you for your contribution to the podcast and to our practice together, my friend. All right, we will speak very soon. And, you know, I know you and I both have our foot on the accelerator because that's the only option out there for guys like us. All right, we will speak soon. And I think that's it, gang. We will see you soon.